Hello students, today's our topic number is P19.2. In 19.1 we tried to establish what is a charge and how the thought process of charge got originated, simple experiments, and then what are the properties of charge, like charge is quantized, charge is conserved, charge is relativistic invariant. Those all things we studied in P19.1. Now our topic number is P19.2, that is Coulomb's law of electrostatics. That means once we accept that charges exist in this nature and bodies can be charged by rubbing or some other methods what we talked in the previous topic, then how do they interact? That is being told by Coulomb's law. But we need to be serious about one point, that he has told about 2 point charges. So small unit charge here, small point charge here. Say this charge is Q1 coulombs, this charge is Q2 coulombs, separated by a distance r. According to Coulomb, the force of attraction or repulsion, because if they are like charges plus and plus, they will repel. If they are like charges minus and minus, they will repel. If they are unlike charges plus and minus, they attract. So in case of attraction we show it like this, in case of repulsion we show it like this, as I shown on the board. So this is repulsion, this is attract. So now quite both things are possible. If they are like charges they will repel, unlike charges they will attract. One is plus, one is minus, means they will attract. Both are plus or both are minus, they will repel. That's a property. So here force of attraction or repulsion between the charges is directly proportional to product of their magnitudes Q1 and Q2, irrespective of what is it. Don't need to think in terms of whether it is positive charge or negative charge. Product of magnitudes. That means if product is more, force is more. If product is less, force is less. Direction is taken care by that plus and minus. For example, plus 2 units and plus 3 units charges are there. Say some force exists, that is say 10 newtons. Just by example I am telling. If one is plus, other is minus, also 10 newtons force only will come, magnitude wise. Direction wise, because they are unlike charges, they will be opposite. They'll attract. So we are talking about magnitude of force, that's directly proportional to product of magnitudes of the charges, and inversely proportional to distance square of distance between them, this distance square. If you combine it, we are not combining, already it's been combined, you get a constant called 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught in here if they are separated, Q1 Q2 by r square, where Q1 is mod Q1, where Q2 is mod Q2. Distance is also we are not taking into vector and account, mod r square, and force also will get the magnitude. You may ask, sir, you are getting magnitude of the force, what about direction? Direction is depending on their charges. We have to take like this. Like charges means they will repel, unlike charges means they will attract. That you have to take into account. So this is also called scalar form of Coulomb's law. Scalar form of Coulomb's law. In scalar form of Coulomb's law we get it by magnitude of the force is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught times magnitude of the first charge, magnitude of the second charge divided by distance between them whole square. And this 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught value is, it's a constant, so 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught standard value in SI system is 9 into 10 to the power of 9. So this overall, if you want unit, then cross multiply Newton meter square, bring this down by Coulomb square. 9 into 10 to the power of 9, this is the constant coming in electricity in this chapter. And epsilon naught is called permittivity. So what is permittivity? Means the ability of this medium, whatever is in between that. For example, here it can be air, it can be water, it can be some other medium. So ability to penetrate that force, ability to allow the field. What is field concept is 19.3 I'll discuss. So ability of a medium to allow the interaction, that is taken care by this epsilon. So it's basically called permittivity, permittability. You can think like that, you can split into 2 words. The ability of the medium to permit the interaction, that will come in this term called permittivity epsilon naught, and if it is naught is being given here, then it is permittivity of free space. They also call it as air or vacuum. And if it is epsilon, then it is called permittivity of medium. If you divide both, that means permittivity of any medium divided by permittivity of air or vacuum. When you compare medium's permittivity with air or vacuum, you will get a constant called relative permittivity. Relative permittivity. Relative permittivity is also called dielectric constant. Can remember this dielectric constant. These all things they represent with a small k like this. Dielectric constant with capital K doesn't matter, but basically relative permittivity, we use the word in SI system. In general, in olden days CGS system, they used to call it as dielectric constant. But because it's a ratio, whatever units come for the numerator, same units come for the denominator, so it comes same, whether it is in SI system or in CGS system. This was olden days used to call it as dielectric constant. Now see, any medium's permittivity is cross multiply this. E is equal to epsilon is equal to k times of epsilon naught. That means whatever existing value is there, keep it as it is. Beside that, you put k. That means if force between two charges separated by air or vacuum is say F naught, given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square. I talk about magnitudes only. Then force in any medium is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Don't write word epsilon naught. Same Q1, magnitude of the charge don't change, distance don't change, only medium changed. The medium in between the charges got changed. So now this epsilon can be replaced with cross multiplication k epsilon naught. Or if you happen to see properly, these all terms are also there in the numerator. So force in the medium is equal to force in air or vacuum, this term, divided by k. Even in this way we can define k. Bring this here, bring this here. Dielectric constant is force experienced by two charges kept at a given distance in air or vacuum to force experienced by the same charges kept at same distance in some other medium. So dielectric constant can be defined like this also. Medium's permittivity to permittivity of air or vacuum, or reciprocal of that. Force experienced in air or vacuum to force experienced in a given medium. That ratio is also dielectric constant. Basically what we do is, in every calculation involved, simple way I'll tell you, whether charges are separated by air or vacuum or any medium, we calculate F naught. That is not what we have calculated. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square by substituting 10 9 into 10 power 9. Whatever force you get it, that is nothing but force of separation in air or vacuum. Divide that with k, a dielectric constant, you get force experienced by the charges separated in that medium. So dielectric constant value they give it in the examination, that you have to write it here. So automatically you will get force between the charges in some other medium. This is the base point regarding Coulomb's law, and we should not forget that Coulomb has given this law for point charges. In future you understand that if the charge is distributed on a sphere or throughout the sphere, another charge is also distributed throughout the sphere, over a sphere, anything, particularly sphere, then they behave as point charges. This all put together behaves as a point charge kept at its center. These all behave as point charge kept at its center. So even spheres, spherical charge distribution behave as point charge distribution at its own center. But if you take, this is in a cuboid form, and charge is being placed over cuboid or inside the cuboid, that will not behave like that. So that we'll understand only when we do calculations related to spheres and compare them with point charges. Expression wise they will be same, but only thing is the point charge should be kept at the center of the sphere itself. So that is subject matter in future. That's why Newton also took a lot of time to prove that. For example, if he drops a chalk piece, the attraction of chalk piece don't depend on the distance from ground to chalk piece. It depends on distance from center of earth to the chalk piece. So to give a conclusion to that, he developed integration and finally proved that a spherical mass distribution behaves mathematically as itself as total mass is concentrated at its own center. Like that only, Coulomb's law is either applicable to point charges or spherically charged bodies. The bodies, the charge when it is uniformly distributed on a sphere or throughout the sphere, inside also. That is an important point. Now, the most important is how to make calculations using Coulomb's law. First, we will reduce the mathematics. By understanding some bits. Most of the times they give charges in microcoulombs. Q1 is 2 microcoulombs, Q2 is minus 6 mu c, like that they give it. So mu's, when they give it microcoulomb, each microcoulomb is 10 to the power of minus 6 coulombs. 2 into 10 to the power of minus 6 coulombs, minus 6 into 10 to the power of minus 6 coulombs. So minus 6 is minus 12. So whenever they give the charges in coulombs, so this value, when you write mod f, you write it as 9 into 10 to the power of 9, which is nothing but this 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. And whenever they give the both the charges in microcoulombs, just put minus 12 here. 9 minus 12. Why we are written like that? Because microcoulomb conversion also quickly we can do it. Next, many times they give distance in meters, sometimes they give in centimeters. Say 20 centimeters is given. That 20 centimeters will be in the denominator. So 20 centimeters whole square when you are making. Remove the centimeter and write as 10 to the power of minus 2 meters whole square. So 10 to the power of minus 4 comes. This minus 4, when you take it up, it becomes plus 4. So you write plus 4. Now if the charges are given like this, 2, directly write it, mu already you have taken here. 6, you directly write it, mu already taken here. And I told minus and plus you take both as plus only, because we are interested in the magnitude first, then we'll think about direction. And also one is positive, one is negative, there will be attraction, that already we know it. Divided by 20 square. We are not writing the conversion unit in the denominator, we have already written as plus 4 there. 10 to the power of minus 2 whole square becomes 10 to the power of minus 4. Minus 4 when it comes up, plus 4. So this part of calculation gets reduced to you. Many times I do that, that's why I am telling you. 9 minus 12, minus 3 plus 4, plus 1. Like that. So that part of calculation got reduced. 2 6 are 12 by 20 square, whatever it comes. 20 into 20. 0 0 cut, 2 1s are 2 6s are 2 3s are 2 10s are. Like that. So now 9 3s are 27. 27 by 10 is 2.7 newtons. So quickly you will get the answer. Just remember, if the charges are given in microcoulombs, both the charges, many times they do get in the textbooks. Similarly, if they give in millicoulombs, 9 into 10 to the power of 9 plus 9, milli, 10 to the power of minus 3, 10 to the power of minus 3, so minus 6. If they give in meters, leave it like that. If they give in centimeters, minus 4. Whatever they give it, so make the conversions quickly so that you don't waste time and you don't write all of them cumbersomely here on the formula. Main point you should be able to focus on. Similarly, if they give both the plus or both minus, 1 plus and 1 minus, just make the product. If they are like charges, they will repel, so you have to show the forces outward. If they are unlike charges, they will attract, you have to show the forces towards. This way we can reduce calculations involving Coulomb's law, like that. Now question comes, whenever three-dimensional things are there, so multiple charges are there, one charge is here, one charge is there, like that, then we need vector form of Coulomb's law that I am writing. Be careful. Force vector, I am not talking about magnitude and direction separately, we are combining them both. Force on first charge due to second charge, that is like this. For example, there are unlike charges, say this is plus and this is a minus. So force on charge 1 due to 2, read like that. Force on 1 due to 2, read as force on 1, I mean charge 1 due to 2, I mean charge 2. This is the way you try to read it. So this wording, whatever has been taken, You have to take the same way. You are not supposed to change the word like that. Next is equal to this 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. You can write it as it is, or you can call it as some k, not dielectric constant, some k type, this type. Dielectric constant you write like this, and k write, make some difference. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Q1, you have to write Q1 along with its charge. Don't take magnitude. Q2 along with its charge. That's why I kept the benefit of doubt plus or minus, divided by, this will pause for a moment. Now, in any vector, direction of a vector is magnitude of a vector by its own magnitude. So, if I am writing a vector R12 bar, then I will write it here mod R12 whole square, and by this also you will get mod R12 because I want direction only. So, this I can multiply to this and I call it as R12 cube, and this I can remove it. This is called vector form of Coulomb's law. Now you don't need to think magnitude and direction separately. It only gives magnitude, it only gives direction. Now what is R12? So in relative motion topic, suppose one car A is going like this, the other car B is going like this. This have velocity VA, this have velocity VB. If you are trying to see B's motion with respect to A, we draw a vector like this, V, B, A. So vector we draw from A to B, but we pronounce it as seeing B from A's point of view, like that only position also. For example, there is a point A, there is a point B. If you are seeing A from B's point of view, you will draw a line. You are seeing A, arrowhead takes given to A. Who is seeing will be given to B. Observed, observer. Total is observation. That's what the way we studied in relative motion. So here also, this is the moving particle, this is the observed particle. This is not a vector. Generally in mathematics they write B a vector because it's been drawn from B to A. But in physics we pronounce it as position of A with respect to B vector. Position of A with respect to B is not drawn from A to B. It is drawn from B to A rather. Whom you are seeing, you will tell first. Arrowhead goes there. Who is seeing? To them arrow tail comes. So now, with this convention, with this ideology, what is R12? This is the position of 1 with respect to 2. So arrowhead goes to 1. That takes 2. So same thing if you want to write in other way. Okay. This is say Q1, this is say Q2. This is a vector drawn from Q1 to Q2. Who is seeing? Q1 is seeing. Whom we are seeing? Q2. So position of 2 with respect to 1. Now we are interested in the force on Q2. We told that they are say unlike charges. One is plus, other is minus. Then the force happens to be like this. This can be called as force on 2 due to 1. So same formula can be written as F21 bar is equal to some constant K. This is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught 9 into 10 to the power of 9 plus or minus Q1 plus or minus Q2, whichever is the sign you have to substitute it, by mod R21 square cube, because vector you have to write in the numerator one of its magnitude, and here one magnitude gets cancelled. Again you will get back the Coulomb's law, inverse square law. R21 bar. This is the force on first charged particle 1, which you named it as due to 2. This is force on charged particle number 2, which you are named as 2 due to 1. In this way, if it is AB also, AB, here also you write blindly, write AB. Here also you write blindly AB. This is QA and this is QB. Pronunciation wise, AB, 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 like that we can write it. But when come to the vector RAB, that becomes problem. For example, you have A here, B here. Now RAB I want. The question is how do you put the arrow mark? This is very, very important because that only will give you proper answers. Whom you are seeing A? From which point of view you are seeing B? So this is the vector. You are seeing A from B's point of view. So some teachers, for your convenience, they write it as a vector from A to B. This is A, this is B, and they ask you to read it as position vector from A to B, like that they give it. Then we have to put minus sign outside, according to this kind convention. And we are not supposed to change the sign conventions from time to time. Already in mechanics, we already have a topic called relative motion. In that relative motion, already we defined position of one particle with respect to other particles. Suppose this is A, this is B, this is a P, this is a Q. What is position of P with respect to Q? That means you are seeing P from Q's point of view. This is the vector. Mathematically, if you want QP bar, you write it. This is different, this is different. Already we have positions. We have a method of writing a position in, when we use in relative motion, position of A with respect to B, position of car with respect to bus, position of car with respect to lorry, position of bird with respect to train. Such kind of questions we already done it. Same convention we can follow here. But only thing is you should know what you are writing. Now read R12 as position of 1 with respect to 2. So this takes arrowhead, this takes arrow tail. So the second term takes the tail of the arrow, first term takes the subscript. First subscript takes arrow's head, second subscript takes the position vector's tail. This you have to remember it. Most of the confusion happens here only, and some students or teachers, they wanted to avoid this vector notation because of this confusion. This is a very small confusion. I tried to explain it to you. Now comes, if the charges are like charges, both are positive or both are negative, then what? Then this terminology will not change, but force will be repulsive. So it acts like this. This is force on 1 due to 2. Everything remains same, only arrow mark direction changes. And now also the formula is not going to change. R12 direction, F12 direction should be same. When they are both positive charges, when you multiply positive and positive, you are going to get a positive answer. That means R12 becomes positive, F12 becomes positive, both will be in same direction. Once again, if one is negative, other is positive, force will be like this. So F12, force on 1 due to 2. Formula remains same, but here charges multiplication will take care of that. One is plus, one is minus, other is plus. So overall answer becomes negative. Plus into minus is minus. Minus of R12. That means whatever is the R12 direction is there, minus of it will be the direction of F12. So formula itself will take care of everything. Only thing is here, when you are using scalar form, you have to take their magnitudes and multiply. Here, along with the magnitude, you have to multiply its sign. This is a basic difference between scalar form of Coulomb's law and vector form of Coulomb's law. In scalar form of Coulomb's law, we will get the magnitude of the force separately, we get the direction of force separately, which is more convenient and easy. Here, in vector form of Coulomb's law, we get both the magnitude as well as the direction together. And you may ask why, when something is very easy like this, why we have to go for it. That's the next point. We have concept of superimposition principle. What does it say? For example, you have a charge Q1, you have a charge Q2. Let there be attracting by a force of 10 newtons and 10 newtons. Just I am giving an example. Now you kept another charge Q3. Now this will affect Q2, and this, between these two, attraction is say 20 newton, 15 newtons and 15 newtons. Because this newly came 15 newtons influencing Q2, this influence between them is unaffected. Magnitude also it will remain 10, direction also it remains 10. Now between these two some force is acting, say 17 newtons and 17 newtons. Presence of Q3 will not affect this attraction. So this process, this interaction is unaffected by presence of how many ever charges? Q4, Q5, Q6, how many charges you want you can put in the vicinity. But whatever attractions or repulsions are there between two charges, or whatever interaction is there between two charges, it is completely unaffected by presence of charges in the vicinity. It is an experimental empirical fact, superimposition principle. Now, what's the mathematical importance of it? Physically, what it is saying is, okay, there is attraction between two that's unaffected by presence of other relationships. This is what qualitatively principle of superimposition is telling. What is the quantitative aspect of it? So, force on any one particular charge is equal to force on that particular charge, force on that particular charge, force on that particular charge, due to the second charge, due to the third charge, due to the fourth charge. How many ever you want, you can put it. This is the importance, and while adding you have to add vectorially. So, principle of superimposition states like this: force of attraction or repulsion between two charges, or the interaction between the two charges, is completely unaffected by the presence of other charges. That means other charges may have their own influence, but they are not going to either increase or decrease the existing influence between two charges. This is the qualitative aspect of principle of superimposition. Quantitatively, mathematically, it gives a beautiful chance for us to make calculations. Force on any one particular charge, for example, now I don't want one charge, I want force on 2. Then I have to remove this. 2, 2, 2. Force on 2 due to 2 don't exist. Self-attraction will not be there. Force on 2 due to 1. Force on 2 due to 3. Force on 2 due to 4. Like that you can, how many ever charges you want, you can take. For example, you have a charge named it as A. Then force on A due to first charge, force on A due to third charge, force on A due to fourth charge. If you are all second charge exists, that you write it, that you write. Just numbering them. So, while adding, we have to add vectorially. Now comes the trouble with the scalar form. So, scalar form, whenever we are talking about two charges, this is big headache, and this is the simplest thing. Moreover, charges on a plane also, this we can handle it more easily. When charges comes into 3 dimensions, that will be more comfortable. Now comes the question, if the charges are on a plane like this will repel this will repel this, say all are like charges, this will repel this. So we can make a free body diagram of this. That means we consider the effects but not the other charges, we can find a net on them. But if one of the charges here, which is outside the board, then force will be into the board. That cannot be handled with scalar form. Better to handle everything in vector form whenever it comes 3 dimensions. So in 1 dimension, if the charges are placed over a single line, this will take care. When charges are distributed over a plane, this will take care. But once the charges are in 3 dimensions, this will help us a lot. This will be there, but it is difficult for us to visualize that spatial sense, 3-dimensional sense. It's difficult to visualize. You can blindly write the vectors. Just writing this vector properly is important, because in your science you will put it properly only. If you can write proper vector form in IJK, you don't need to concentrate on F12 because it will automatically come. You are properly substituting sine of Q1, you are properly substituting sine of Q2, you are properly writing vector between 1 and 2. After doing all these things, magnitude and direction of this follows soon. You don't need to focus on anything on that. It automatically comes. That's for the explanation part. I shown you what happens if R12 is F12 and all. I shown as if R12, when you write it, what happens to F12 I shown, but automatically it comes. So on RHS, if you take proper care, LHS will be taken care of. And every LHS, if you properly write it and add them, then this part of RHS will take care of this, right hand side and left hand side. So Coulomb's law, both the forms, scalar form as well as vector form, are important. Let me do one problem so that you can understand how to solve a problem. With them. Let me take a problem. Let 4 particles are like this, and charges are 2 mu c, 3 mu c, 4 mu c, 5 mu c, microcoulombs. All are microcoulombs. And dimensions, this is convenient. Let me take this as 3 units and this as 4 units. Put them in meters only so that you will not have problem centimeter conversion and all. And you know, this diagonal 3 square plus 4 square under root, so this will be 5. This is required in future, 5 meters. And this angle is 53 degrees. 4:3, 5, 4, 3, 5 is a Pythagorean triplet. So this angle will be 53, this angle will be 37. These all things are required. Now we'll start the problem. Let me solve the problem with scalar form. F is equal to some constant k, which is 9 into 10 to the power of 9 mod q1 mod q2 by mod r square, or just distance between them whole square. If this is 3, this is 3. If this is 4, this is 4. Now let us name them so that we can apply the superimposition principle. So this is A, this is B, this is C, and this is D. Now we are interested in calculating force on 5 mu c. Find force on 5 mu c. Find force on 5 mu c. So there are 3 more charges which are influencing 5 mu c. Let us write the superimposition principle first. Force on 5 mu c, which is nothing but D vector, is equal to force on D due to A, force on D due to B, force on D due to C. Force on D due to D we don't take. This is required for vector form, we will do it. So let us solve the problem first scalar form, then we do it in vector form. First scalar form. This is 5, this is 2. So there will be a force like this. F is equal to 9 into 10 to the power of 9, this constant. As they are in given microcoulombs, microcoulombs, minus 12. And this is 2, this is 5. 2 into 5. Micro I took care here. Divided by this distance square, 3 square. You know, this 2 will get cancelled. That's a different issue. We will take later on. So first we are trying to draw free body diagram of 5 whose net force on that if you want. So what is a free body diagram? Basically we are used to draw in mechanics. For example, you have an object. There is one force like this. There is one force like this. There is one force like this. There is another force like this. We used to find the net force on that. Then we equate it to mass times acceleration. So basically free body diagram is used not to equate to mass time acceleration. First we will want to find the net force. So here also, instead of having normal force, frictional force, tension force, buoyant force, we are having electrical forces governed by Coulomb's law. So this is one force. Now we draw free body diagram due to this force. Chalo, bolo. Same. Force is equal to 9 into 10 to the power of 9 minus 12 is minus 3. That is coulombs, and coulombs I took care. 4 into 5 by this distance square. 4 square. This is over. This acts along this line, this acts along this line. Acts along line joining the charges. Now this angle you have to maintain this. This angle should be 53 again. And this is 5 mu c. Okay. 3 mu c, 5 mu c. So it is F again is equal to 9 into 10 to the power of minus 3. 9 into 10 to the power of 9. Micro 10 to the power of minus 12. That is taken here. 5 3 is a 15 by this distance square. 5 square. Now we didn't use force on A due to B, B due to A, but if you want you can write it. This is force on D due to A, D due to A. This is force on D due to C. In vectorial you need it. In the here automatically we taken care of that. Force on D due to B. Now no need to write them in IJK form. You know that this is along like this is along like this. So 1 over 4 vector is like this, 1 vector is like this. Make a vector sum of this. Or you also have another vector which is like this. Take its components. So what will happen? This is F dB cos 53, F dB sin 53 if this angle is 53. This is force on D due to A, whatever you have calculated. This is force on D due to C, whatever you have calculated. These two you add, these two you add. Then you will get one vector in this direction, one vector in this direction. Then by using Pythagoras or using parallelogram law of vectors, get the net. This is one method of solving where you didn't use IJK notation at all, where you didn't write unit vectors at all. Everything, distances only you taken. Like charges repel, like charges repel, like charges repel, restoring their directions along line joining centers. Because all are positive charges, only you took repulsions, you are not took attractions. For example, if this is minus 3 mu c, then this direction would have been reverted like that. That's all. Anyhow, we don't disturb this problem now presently. So plus 3 mu c. Now comes this concept. So force on D vector, force on D due to, in all of them this part comes constant, 9 into 10 to the power of 9. In all of them product is micro, so minus 12. Now comes the bracket term. Q1, Q2 you have to write along with the sign. So D and A you have to write along with the sign. Plus 2 plus 5. Micro I already taken here. Divided by, don't write distance square. First write the vector form. So this is happening to be like x-axis. So it's 3 I cap plus 0j plus 0k if you want. And magnitude of this whole cube, root of 3 square plus 0 square plus 0 square whole cube. You are saying, sir, the simplest thing 3 by 3 cube you would have written, why you are complicating it? I am not complicating it, I am telling you the procedure. Plus already 9 10 power minus 9 you have taken common, the plus 9 and minus 12. dB, where is D, where is B? This is D, this is B, that we have to take. So 3 and 5 along with the sign, plus 3 plus 5. Don't directly write square, first you write the vector. What is this vector? 3 units you go on right and 4 units you go on up. 3i plus 4j plus 0k. This is the vector divided by magnitude of the vector whole cube. 3 square plus 4 square. I know it is 5, but I am writing procedure. 3 square plus 4 square plus 0 square under root whole cube. You may not be happy because this method you will not be doing it. That method only most of the time textbooks, guides and model papers they will be showing. But this procedure you learn it because even in 3 dimensions you can happily use it. Where now in this 1 dimension 2 zeros came, in 2 dimensions 1 0 came, in 3 dimensions nothing will be 0, all are non-zeros. Then how to handle it? This is a procedure. Plus, come on. What is that? FDC. This is D, this is C. Product. 5 into 4 along with the sign. Plus 5 into plus 4. Don't write divide by 4 square like this. That's wrong. In vector form, write the vector. What is this vector? You went up. So this is a vector. That vector we name it as R. You are seeing D from C, RDC. So when FDC comes, RDC should come. Okay. That is 4j cap. So 0i plus 4j plus 0k divided by 0 square plus 4 square plus 0 square whole cube. You may be thinking that we have made it little more lengthy by writing cubes and all. Even though we made it lengthy, procedure wise this is more elegant. We are not taking cos 63, sin 63, taking its components, adding this x component to this, adding y component to that. Finally getting one resultant y component, one resultant x component, and finally adding them to give the net. Anyhow, we are doing each step one time at that time, so students generally feel easier, but this is more easy. Procedure wise, we have done it. In this way, if you get the answer. Now, for example, if this is minus 3, then what? No need to shuffle anything here, including the vector. Wherever 3 is involved, 3 and it is involved between 3 and 5. Where is 3 and 5? Here 2 and 5, 4 and 5. Just this part you make it minus. This minus into plus, previously it was plus into plus, gets multiplied to this. Now this minus into plus gets multiplied to this. Automatically that value get reverted. That means previously we have to consciously make like charges repel, unlike charge attract. Consciously you have to make. Now you don't need to make it consciously. Just put it like that. For example, this is plus 3 and this is minus 5. You have to reverse this, you have to reverse this, you have to reverse this. Don't need to do all those things. In this place plus 5 you write minus 5, in this place you write minus 5, in this place you write minus 5. Automatically the vector which you are getting multiplied to this sign will take care of the remaining things. Most advantageous. At the same time, 3 square is nothing but square and root is 3. Again 3 cube comes. One of the 3 you cancel it. Same lengthwise. I don't think I have increased a lot. I don't think I have increased a lot. Little I increased. Anyhow, our new topic called P19.3 deals with field and potential calculations. But here I can take a liberty to explain you the concept of field. So please consciously listen. Let us restore it back. Let us keep it as 5 plus 5 only. So plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. What is this FD? What is this FD? Force on the charge which is named as D. So which charge is named as D? 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth charge is named as D. So divide that force on that particular charge D with the charge itself. This 5 microcoulombs you divide it. Divide with 5 mu c. That means this you are dividing with 5, this you are dividing with 5, this you are dividing with 5. This 5 gets cancelled, this 5 gets cancelled, this 5 gets cancelled. Even the micro charge also you have to make a difference. 10 to the power of minus 12, I make it 10 to the power of minus 6 only. One of the minus 6 was here, one of the minus 6 was here, cancelled. Minus 6, minus 6, minus 6, minus 6 got cancelled. Now you got force at a point per unit charge. Because you are divided with 5 mu c, what is the denominator? Now after cancelling, suppose you got some answer here 100. 100 by 5. 100 10 to the power of minus 6. 10 to the power of minus 6, 10 to the power of 5, 20 you got. What is this 20? Mathematically it's a number. But physically this is called field at that point. That's called electric field at that point. So force acting on a particular charge by the magnitude of the charge division gives you field at that point. This is the definition of electric field. Now I may ask, what is the advantage of this? So if at all instead of this plus mu 5 mu c, if you remove it and call it as plus 1 charge, instead of writing it as plus 5 mu c and write it as plus 1 charge, multiplication and division of this 5 is not required. You can remove this part. So this 5 you need not account it in the beginning. This 5 you don't need to account in the beginning. This 5 you don't need to account in the beginning. Similarly, minus 12 you can convert into minus 6. In this way, if you do the calculation, instead of getting force, you will get field at D. Now if you want force on the charge kept at D, field at D into the 5 mu c. Previously force by charge we called field. Now obtain the field, multiply with the charge, you will get force. This is what the physicist says more convenient way. So where there is nothing, there field exists. And to prove that field exists, you have to put some charge and test it. By putting the charge, you are only testing it, but doesn't mean that field don't exist if you don't put the charge. So while calculating field at this point, you have to assume there is unit positive charge. There is unit positive charge. Do the calculation. Assume that you are finding force on unit positive charge and do the calculation. You get field at that point. Next, whatever charge you are putting there, 5 microcoulombs, 10 microcoulombs, nanocoulombs, whatever charge you are putting, multiply with the field. You will get force at that place. This is a more convenient way. And field also, electric field at a point P, that is electric, instead of this D you call it as point P, is equal to electric field at point P due to the charge A, electric field at point P due to the charge B, electric field at point P due to the charge C, as you go on. So fields also obey superimposition. That means if these two charges are not present, this creates field here. When you keep another charge also, field is created here because of this and this together. But whatever field this creates is not affected by presence of this. Once you keep one more charge also, this also creates field here. This create field, this side, this create field, this side, this create field, this side. Presence of these two will not affect this field. Presence of these two will not affect this field. Presence of these two will not affect this field. So their magnitude wise, direction wise, those fields remain same, but net value will change. Previously when these two are not there, only this was the field. Now because you kept them, net field magnitude, net field direction will change, but individual interactions will not get affected. So by superimposition principle we can find forces, we can find fields. By finding the force dividing with the charge we will get field. By finding the field and multiplying with the charge we get force. I repeat. At a given point put some charge q and find force on that. Divide with that charge. You will get field at that point P. So this center point is say P. At that point you got. Next, forget about the charge. At this point P I found out the field. Multiply the charge. You will get force. If you find force on a charge and divide with the charge, you will get field. If you find field at the point and multiply with the charge, you will get force. They are like that. And the second one is more scientific. So at a given place, we will find the field first. After finding the field there, we will put the charge present there and multiply with the field to get the force experienced by the charge. That's the way we can find force on a given charge. So ultimately what we are told now, Coulomb's law, scalar form, vector form. In scalar form, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, that is 9 into 10 to the power of 9. You will get magnitude of force by multiplying magnitude of the first charge irrespective of its sign, magnitude of second charge irrespective of its sign, distance between them irrespective of the vector, distance between them whole square. In vector form, you will get force on first charge due to second charge by the same constant 9 and 10 power 9 along with the sign, proper sign of the first charge along with the proper sign of the second charge. And you should not take distance, you should take the vector, a straight line from one charge to other charge. And that vector divided by that vector's whole cube. You may ask, sir, is Coulomb's inverse square law is not disturbed? No, this contains both magnitude and direction. So one of the magnitude and one of the magnitude gets cancelled. Basically it again inverse square law only, but in the denominator we cube it because in numerator we increase the magnitude, that's why. Hey students, instead of taking two charges in a straight line, let us, even they are in straight line now also, but let us take this is q2, this is q1. You have drawn a vector. You are saying 1 from 2's point of view, r1, 2 vectors will be like this. Vector drawn not from 2 to 1, it is drawn from 1 to 2, the arrow mark will be like this. Now sometimes you want r1, 2, how to get it? This is origin in 3 dimensions. Position of this charge is r1, position of this charge is say r2. Now what you have to add to what to get vectorially what? This you have to add it to this to get this. So r2 plus r12 vectorially. To this you have to add this to get this. Now we want r12. r12 bar is r1 bar minus r2 bar. So even this you can remember it much more easier way. That is r12 can be replaced with r1 bar minus r2 bar. Some textbooks, foreign textbook, they give like this. Even this also be written like that, r1 minus r2 whole cube. Your written vector along with magnitude and direction, you have to divide with the magnitude to get inverse square log in. So these other, some foreign textbooks, they give like this. More precisely, this is a charge creating field here and this is getting affected. So if you call this as source charge and this is test charge or point of interest. So R2 should be replaced with this R1. R1 becomes RP. R2 becomes RS. R1 becomes RP. R2 becomes RS. So R12 becomes what then? We are saying P from S, RPS. So RPS is RP minus RS. What is RPS? I am reading it from my mouth, be careful. Position of interest or point of interest from source charge. When you go to fields, that will be useful. Point of interest from source charge is equal to position vector of that point of interest minus position vector of the source charge. Like that also you can think. So just if you are having little strength in vectors, at least whatever you are seeing, if visually if you are able to write it in a vector form, that will take care of everything. Many a times we don't even like to see all these things. If there is a graph sheet like this, it got 2 units up, 2 units left, 2i minus 2j minus 2i, we will write it. We don't even need all these things. But still, if position of first charge and position of second charge is known, position of first charge and position of second charge is known, and you are interested in finding position of force on 1, then R1 bar minus R2 bar, where R1 is position vector of 1, R2 is position vector of 2, and this difference gives you R12, which is position of 1 as seen from 2. Position of 1 as seen from 2. And you know, best book for electrodynamics is D.J. Griffith. Introduction to Electrodynamics. By D.J. Griffith. In this he used this. So don't get confused. Basically R12 bar, he is writing it as R1 bar minus R2 bar. You are interested in finding force on 1. Suppose you are interested in finding force on 2 due to 1. Then 9 into 10 to the power of 9, which is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, if they separated by air or vacuum. Q1 with plus or minus, Q2 with plus or minus, and we are interested in force on 2. That is position of 2 vector, position of the 2 minus position of 1 divided by position of 2 minus position of 1 mod whole cube. First you have to subtract, then you have to cube it. Don't cube and then subtract. Magnitude of change and change of magnitude, both are different. So anyhow, follow this book, which will give good grip. He plays everything with charge density, field and potential. If you know interconversion between these two, if you know interconversion between these two, if you know interconversion between these two, 90% of electrostatics is over to you. So that approach is given in that book. Please do read it. Today we will do only the first part, that is Coulomb's law of electrostatics. Yes, students, to make you more confident, I am taking a very simplest example. Let this be x-axis, this be y-axis, and we have two charges, 2 mu c plus mu 2 mu c and minus 6 mu c at coordinates number 2 and 5 along x-axis. Now this I call it as charge number 1, this I call as charge number 2, and I am interested in force on 1 due to 2 on this charge. Force on this charge, I want the force due to this charge. So I'll write it simply. Force on 1 due to 2 vector is equal to 9 into 10 to the power of 9 minus 12. Why I have written minus 12? Mu c. And plus 2 I have to write it as it is with sign. Minus 6 I have to write it as it is with sign. Because I am trying to do the problem not in scalar form. In a vector form I want to do it. Divided by this distance square. 2 to 3 1 unit, 3 to 4 1 unit, 4 to 5 1 unit. But I am not going to take like that. I am going to use this formula R1 vector. So what is the position of this one? This is 2i minus, what is the position of here to here? 5i. That's a vector. Divided by magnitude of that. 2i minus 5i is nothing but minus 3i. So it is minus 3 whole square plus 0 square plus 0 square whole cube. This comes out to be 9 into 10 to the power of minus 3. 2 6 are 12, but it is minus 12. Divided by 3 square root, so it is 3 cube. 2i minus 5i minus 3i. So 3 cube I write it as 3 square into 3, 1 3 and 1 3 gets cancel. Minus into minus becomes plus. This 3 square, this 9 gets cancelled. So it is 12 into 10 to the power of minus 3, minus into minus plus I cap. So force is along, this is the magnitude of the force, this is the direction of force. If minus comes here, you have to shift it here direction wise. So it is along. Now let us check it out. This is one charge which is positive, this is other charge which is negative. So we are interested in force on 1 due to 2. Force on 1 due to 2. This is charge number 2, this is charge number 1. So force will be right side, positive side. You see, direction came positive. Automatically it will take care. Position of the first charge you are written here, position of the second charge you are written here from the origin. I hope you understood what's the mechanism of that formula. So direction, you may ask how it took care. Minus into plus, when you made, you became minus. That minus into this minus vector direction, it will got changed. So automatically you got correct answer. Now you will say, no sir, I want force on second charge due to first charge. This should come negative. Let us check it out. This is force on 2 due to 1. So then I have to change this. 2 due to 1. Then this remains same. This 2 will not change. But first I have to write vector of 2. Then I have to write vector of 1. Vector of 2 is 5i. Vector of 1 is 2i. This is 3's cube. Everything remains same. 5 minus 2 becomes plus 3. Every other calculation remains same. This minus is unaffected. That comes out. This minus will be transferred in along to the direction side. So this is the magnitude of the force. Magnitude is same. Direction is this side, negative side. That means force is showing towards negative x-axis. This formula will take care of, if you write, please remember 1, 2, if you write it, you have to write 1, 2. If you write 2, 1, you have to write as 2, 1. R1 is the position of the first charge from the origin. R2 is the position of the second charge from the origin. If at all you know origin. It will give you a beautiful help in 3 dimensions. In 1 dimension it appears to be silly for you. Directly when you see in the charges, why don't you take scalar form? Yes, take scalar form. I also advise you scalar form. What is that? F is equal to 9 into 10 to the power of 9 minus 12 micro. Don't worry about plus and minus. 2 into 6, magnitude of this. Distance between them is 3 square. Done. But what is direction? Separately I have to use. Unlike charges, one is plus, other is minus. They attract. Attraction means forces should be shown like this. This is force on 2 due to 6. This is force on 6 due to 2. You have to get magnitude separately, direction separately. Answer comes same, you see. 3 square 9, this gets cancelled. 2 6 are 12 into 10 to the power of minus 3. Magnitude came same, but it didn't give direction because it's a scalar form. You have taken magnitude of the first charge, magnitude of the second charge, and distance between them whole square. I am trying to emphasize more on how to use vector form of the Coulomb's law. Same thing is applicable in gravitation. Very interesting. Please see. In gravitation, force on earth due to moon, like that you can apply vector form, is equal to G. This 1 by 4 pi epsilon becomes G. M1, M2. They don't have plus and minus sign, like charges will have like charge, unlike charges. But you also know that two masses never repel. Two masses always attract. No repulsions. So this attraction, previously repulsion, when plus into plus was repulsion, minus into minus was repulsion, plus into plus was plus, minus into minus was plus. But plus into minus was minus. That is not there here. So you have to give it. So that you have to additionally give that sign. Minus outside G M1 M2 by R square. R square is R1 bar minus R2 bar by R1 minus R2 mod whole cube. You have kept minus outside. You created it. Why? Because you know that masses will never repel. Masses only will attract. They behave like unlike charges. Masses never behave like charges and repel. Masses behave like unlike charges. They attract. So that attraction, because masses don't have sign like positive and negative, you yourself multiply with one minus sign so that vectorially it takes care of. Or you may say, sir, I don't like to put minus sign, remove it. Take that minus inside. R2 minus R1. So when you want F12 in gravitation, you have to subtract R2 minus R1. Here also R2 minus R1. Don't make that mistake. But procedure wise, it will be always convenient for to remember the same thing, and small changes you remember it. F12, F12. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught G. This extra minus sign is for the sake of attraction. Masses will be never negative, never positive. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. This will take care of full gravitation. Wherever may be the masses, force on first mass due to second mass, say force on moon due to earth, force on moon due to Jupiter, like that. And even their principle of superimposition holds too. Force on moon due to earth, force on moon due to sun, force on moon due to Jupiter, you can vectorially add to get the net force. But the distances are so heavy that force on moon due to sun, force on moon due to Jupiter are very long distances, that they are negligibly small. They will be there, but negligibly small. Force on moon is nothing but force on moon due to earth only, because of the distance effect. So in gravitation also, vector form can be used like that. So you don't want to write like this, you want to write R12 bar, you can write it R12 bar, R12 mod whole cube. This minus you retain it. Minus here is signifying attraction. That means you are going like this to that particle, but that is attracting in this way. So they are in opposite direction. That to show that we need minus sign. In charges you don't need to put it. Automatically like charges repel unlike charges, that plus minus when you put the sign, that will take care of. In gravitation you have to additionally give that sign to show that only attraction exists, repulsion don't exist. So we have learnt Coulomb's law as well as Newton's law of gravitation. Try to see the distinction between them. Try to use confidently the vector form of both Coulomb's law as well as gravitation. Go back to gravitation chapter. I don't remember the P, probably 10th chapter, P10. Just go through it and try to do problems involving gravitation with vector form. But most of the times in gravitation we don't need it, but in electricity we need much number of times the vector form. Suppose you have a pyramid kind of thing where charges are kept like this and charge is kept on that cuboid. Particularly now you see the tough problem which we can be easily created. This is a x-axis, this is a y-axis, this is a z-axis. You kept charges 2 mu c, 5 mu c, 6 mu c, 12 mu c, minus 5 mu c, and you want field, you want force on this charge which is say 7 mu c. You want force on this corner which is 7 mu c. Now how can you do with scalar? You tell me. One force will be diagonally like this, one force will be diagonally like this, one force will be along the edge, one force will be along the edge, one force will be along the body diagonal, one force will be along the face diagonal. So if you know the dimension, say this is 1 meter, 1 meter, 1 meter, you can write everything in IJK form. So I am interested force on this, I should know this vector. I am interested force on this, I should know this vector. I am interested force on this, I should know this vector. Point charge from which point, whichever charge you are taking. So this is a charge on which you want force. Say this is first charge, force on 1 due to 2. Every other charge becomes second charge, every other charge becomes second charge. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 like that. Then find all forces in vector form and add them. It's appearing to be very simple problem, but it is very complex when you try to handle this in a scalar form of Coulomb's law, but with vector form of Coulomb's law it's just a simple problem. When you do problems, that is charges placed over a line, scalar form will happily take care. On a right angle triangle you kept charges and you want force on this, you can deal with scalar form, like charges repel, unlike charges attract, like that arrow marks you will get it. When you keep charges on a square, you can handle it. When you keep the charges on a regular hexagon, here, here, here and here and here and here, and you want force on this charge which kept here, you can handle with scalar form. But when cuboid comes, when cube comes into picture, 3 dimensions come into picture. One vector will act outward the board, one vector act along the board, one vector act into the board. Resolving them also becomes very difficult. So you have to write them in IJK form. Each force you write it in IJK form. I will get added to I, J will get added to J, K get added to K. You don't have any problem. In all these things, IJ will be involved, K will not be involved. So your common sense resolving into components will handle this. So this generally this kind of problems, keeping the objects, keeping the charges on square, rectangle, right triangle, equilateral triangle, along a line, along a graph sheet at different places, along a plane, they give it, that you can handle using scalar form of Coulomb's law. But if you want a complex problem involving 3 dimensions, inevitably you have to go with Coulomb's vector formula. I am closing one word. Force on charge 1 due to charge 2, whichever charge you are finding the force on it due to the other charge is equal to 1/4 pi epsilon naught. First charge with plus or minus, second charge with plus or minus. Position of the first charge from origin, position of the second charge from origin. Or if you know directly, position R12, that is position of 1 from 2. Position of 1 from 2, if you know the arrow, then directly take it, write it here in IJK form. Divide by its magnitude whole cube. That's all. Thank you.